For more videos, press the subscribe button and also turn on the bell notification to receive the updates directly in your device. Hello friends, I Vikas Nehra welcome you all to our live Linux training for members. This is session number 48 and in this session we will talk about the kernel management in Linux. In this tutorial, we will talk about the Linux kernel source code, kernel boot files, Linux kernel modules, and how can you upgrade the kernel as well as how can you tune the kernel parameters. And in the next video, I will show you how can you compile a Linux kernel. So without wasting time, let's get started. First, we will talk about the Linux kernel and kernel versions. In 1991, Linus Torvald wrote the first version of the Linux kernel. He put it online and other people started contributing the code. Over thousands of individuals contributed source code to the latest kernel release. And in case if you want to know the kernel release or the kernel version, you can execute uname-r command in your machine. It will show you the kernel version. Right now I'm using 4.18.0 kernel version. In case if you want to know the parameters that were passed to the Linux kernel at the time of booting in your machine, you can execute cat proc cmd line command. It will show you all the parameters that were passed to the kernel at the time of booting. In many cases, we need to boot up our machine in the single user mode. As you know that by default we boot our machine in the graphical.target mode, but in many cases, especially if we want to reset the forgotten root password, at that time we boot up our machine in the single user mode. So what is the single user mode? When booting the Linux kernel with the single parameter, it starts in single user mode. Linux can start in a bash shell with the root user logged on without password. So here we can use the root account without providing the root password. Some distributions prevent the use of this feature. So how can we boot up our machine in the single user mode? Up to RHEL 6, we can write there init is equal to /bin/bash in the kernel parameter line after pressing E on the grub menu on the kernel. After pressing the E key during the time of booting, you can make the changes in the kernel parameters, and there you can write init is equal to /bin/bash in the kernel parameter line here. But in RHEL 7 and RHEL 8, you will have to mention rd.break. So this will allow you to boot up the machine in the single user mode. Normally, the Linux kernel invokes init as the first daemon process. Adding init is equal to /bin/bash or rd.break to the kernel parameters will instead invoke bash again with root logged on without providing a password. So this is very helpful at the time of troubleshooting or resetting the root password. If you want to know or read the kernel messages that are captured in the /var/log messages file, you can read this file contents by running the cat command or more or less commands. Here it is. The kernel reports during boot to the syslog, which writes a lot of kernel actions in the /var/log/messages file. So you can go through this file to read the kernel messages. You can also execute the dmesg command. The dmesg command prints out all the kernel boot up messages from the last boot. Here you can go through the messages by executing the dmesg command. Now we will talk about the Linux kernel source code. For that, either you can do ftp, you can execute the ftp command, ftp.kernel.org, or if you want to do it In browser, you can write www.kernel.org and press enter. So what it will do, it will open the kernel.org website where you can see all the available kernel versions. The home of the Linux kernel source is ftp.kernel.org. It contains all the official releases of the Linux kernel source codes from 1991. It provides free downloads over HTTP, FTP, and rsync of all these releases, as well as the changelogs and the patches. And you can obtain the additional information on this website by going through the other options. In case if you need to compile the new kernel, you can download the tarball file from here, and you can unzip the file, and after that you can compile the kernel. That I will show you in the next tutorial, and I will provide you the link of that in the description of this video, as well as I will add that tutorial in the same playlist. Now let's proceed further. On your local machine, the kernel source code is located in /usr/src. Let me show you. If I go there and execute the ls command, there you can see the debug directory and the kernels directory. Note though that the structure inside /usr/src might be different depending on the distribution that you are using. So it may change as per the distribution. The Red Hat kernel source code is located on the 4th source CD-ROM, or you can get it from the official website of Red Hat. So how can you do that? If you want to do it from the terminal, you can either execute the wget command and mention the kernel URL, or you can do the FTP. Let me show you how can you do it with the help of FTP. So for that you can execute the FTP command, FTP, then you can mention ftp.redhat.com and press enter. Then it will connect to the FTP server of the Red Hat, and then you can log in here anonymously. So you will have to mention the name as anonymous, and after that it will ask for the password. So here you will provide the password in form of email ID. So I will write here abc@gmail.com. So it will allow us to log in, and after that we can list the contents by running the ls command, and here we can go to the public directory by using the cd command, and there we can again list the contents. There we can go to the Red Hat by cd command and keep doing the same till we find the kernel source code. So either we can do it from the terminal, or in case if we want to do it from the browser, here we can mention the same in the browser as well. So we can write here ftp.redhat.com, and here we can write pub for the public, and we can go to the desired location. Let me go to the RHEL RHEL 8 beta base OS, and here we will select 64-bit packages, and there you can see all type of packages. So kernel packages are also here. Even the source code is also there in the different directory. You can download it very easily from here. Now let's proceed further. Now we will talk about the kernel boot files. If you will go to the /boot directory and long list the contents, you can find different type of files there. First we will talk about the VM-linux file. These two files are there. So VM-linux file in the /boot directory is the compressed kernel. So these two are the compressed kernel files. This one is for the normal mode, and this one is for the rescue mode. So these are the compressed kernel files. There you can find either init.rd or initramfs files. So this is for the rescue initramfs, and this one is for the normal mode, and one more is there for the kdump. The kernel uses initrd or initramfs as initial RAM disk at boot time. The initrd or initramfs is mounted before the kernel loads and can contain additional drivers and modules. It is a compressed CPIO archive. There you can find one more file with the name as system.map. The system.map contains the symbol table and the changes with the every kernel compile. The table symbol is also present in the /proc/cal sims. Either if you want to go through the details, you can execute the head command. Suppose I want to list only the first 10 lines of this file, and after that I can mention the file name, so it will show me the symbol table. First 10 it will show us. Or if we want to see all, we can either execute the cat command, or we can open the /proc/cal sims file and we can go through these details. So this can be known either from the system.map file or from the /proc/cal sims file. Now let's proceed further. We find one more file here with the name as config. So this config file is very important. The last file copied to the /boot directory is the kernel configuration used for the compilation. This file is not necessarily in the /boot directory, but it is the common practice to put a copy there. It allows you to recompile a kernel starting from the same configuration as an existing one was working. Now we will talk about the kernel modules. The Linux kernel is a monolithic kernel with loadable modules. These modules contain parts of the kernel used typically for device drivers, file systems, and network protocols. Most of the time, necessary kernel modules are loaded automatically and dynamically without administrator interaction. And the modules are stored in the /lib/modules directory. Here it is. If you will go to this /lib/modules directory and list the contents, you can find different directories with different kernel version names. So there you can find different kernel versions in this /lib/modules directory, and there is a separate directory for each kernel that was compiled for your system. So these two kernels have been compiled on my system, and if you will go inside them, you will find different type of modules. Let me show you. Suppose I want to go to the first one and list the contents. There you will find the directory name as extra, and inside this we will find different modules. Generally the module files are having the extension as .ko, and in case if you want to find these files, you can execute the find command, find lib modules, and then you can find them with the name. So you can write the option here -name, and then you can mention *.ko. It will list all the files, all the modules. So these are the modules that are present on my machine. To see a list of currently loaded modules, you can execute lsmod command. Let me show you. lsmod and press enter. So it will show me all the modules that are currently loaded. And if you want to list only few, you can filter them by using the head command like this. So it will only show the first 10. There is a file in the /proc directory with the name as modules. So you can execute cat /proc/modules command. It will show you all the modules. The /proc/modules modules, list all the modules loaded by the kernel. Here it is, and here you can grab the desired. Suppose I want to see all the VM modules, so I can grab VM here in the output. It will show me the VM modules. Some modules are there which depends on others. Now we will talk about the insmod command. Kernel modules can be manually loaded with the insmod command. This is a very simple way of loading the modules. Let me show you. Suppose I want to check whether this module is loaded or not. So I can execute lsmod, and there I can grab kvdo. So this module is not loaded. In case if I want to load this module manually, I can execute the insmod command. But there is a condition that the dependencies should be resolved already. If some dependencies would be there, this module will not be loaded. So let me try to load this module by running the insmod command, and this module is successfully loaded. Now we can grab the kvdo. You can have a look at this. This module is loaded because all the dependencies were already resolved. Insmod does not detect the dependencies, and due to this, sometimes it fails to load the modules which are dependent on the other. So in those cases, if we want to know the details of the dependencies, we can execute the mod info command. After the mod info command, we can mention the name of the module. So here it will show all the details of the modules, and here we can check the dependencies as well. In some cases, if we want to load the dependencies at their own, we can execute the mod probe command. Mod probe is better than the insmod. The big advantage of using the mod probe over the insmod is that mod probe will load all the necessary modules, whereas the insmod requires manual loading of the dependencies. Another advantage is that you don't need to point to the file name with the full path. In case if you want to load a module by running the mod probe command, first check whether the module is already loaded or not. Suppose I want to check whether the kvdo module is loaded or not. I can execute the lsmod command for the same. Now in case if I want to load this module by running the mod probe, I can mention mod probe kvdo. So this module will get loaded, and again we can verify the same by running the lsmod command. So this module is loaded. Now in case if we need to unload or remove the module, so I can execute rmmod command, rmmod and the module name. So this will be removed, and we can verify the same by running the lsmod command again. In case if you want to remove the unneeded modules, you can execute the mod probe -r command. Contrary to rmmod, mod probe will automatically remove unneeded modules. Let me show you. Suppose I want to remove the unneeded modules, I can execute mod probe -r and the module name. So it will remove all the unneeded modules from the system. Modules dependencies are stored in the modules.dep file in the same location. So either you can open this file or you can execute the dep mod command to find the dependencies. There are some files present in the /etc/modprobe.d directory used by human for the dependent modules for the mod probe. So these files can be used by us for the dependent modules for the mod probe command. Now we will talk about the library management. With libraries, we are talking about the dynamically linked libraries. These are the binaries that contain functions and are not started themselves as programs, but are called by other binaries. Several programs can use the same library. The name of the library file usually starts with lib, followed by the actual name of the library, then the character .so, and finally a version number. When you look at the /lib or /usr/lib directory, you will see a lot of Symbolic links. Most libraries have a detailed version number in their name but receive a symbolic link from a file name which usually contains a major version number. If you will execute the ls-l command for the /lib, you will find the symbolic link to /usr/lib. Now we will talk about the ldd command. Many programs have dependencies on the installation of certain libraries. You can display these dependencies with the ldd command. Suppose if I want to list the dependencies of the su command, I can mention ldd/bin/su and press enter. So it will display all the dependencies of the su command. These are the dependencies. Now we will talk about the ltrace command. The ltrace program allows to see all the calls made to library function by a program. Let me show you. After the ltrace, we can mention -c, then -l, and after that we can mention the library file name, that is /lib64, and suppose we want to check for this library, that is libpamc.so.0, and after that suppose I want to check for the su hyphen command, and there we can mention the name of the user. Suppose I want to switch in the account of Vikas Nehra and I want to see the calls made to the library function by the su program. So as soon as I will come back, I will type exit here. It will show us all the details of the calls. So by this we can check the calls made to the library function by a program. We can find on Red Hat and Fedora to which package a library belong. So how can we do that? For that we can execute the rpm command, rpm-qf, and after that we can mention the name of the library file. So it will show us the details. In the same way, you can check for the other files. If you want to see all the library files, you can go to the /lib64 directory and you can execute ls-l command there. It will show you all the files. Now I will tell you how can you use the stress command. More detailed tracing of all function calls can be done by using the stress command. We start by creating a read-only file. Let me show you with an example. Let us suppose I write here echo hello and I save it in a file with the name as 42.txt. After that I will change the permissions by running the chmod command, chmod 400 and the file name. After that I will verify the permissions. So we have mentioned the correct permissions. 400, you can see the permissions here. Now we open the file with vi, but include the stress command with an output of file for the stress before vi. This will create a file with all the function calls done by vi. Let me show you. So I will write here stress. After the stress command I will write option -o, then I will write here stress strace.txt, and then I will write here vi and the file name, that is 42.txt. This is a read-only file, but we can still change the contents and use :w exclamation directive to write into this file. Then we can close vi and take a look at the stress log. Let me make some changes here. Then I will save this file by w and the bang sign. So we can save the contents and now we can exit this file. Use the cat command and we can open the stress file. So these are the details of the calls. We can see the calls with the help of the stress command. Now I will teach you how can you upgrade the Linux kernel on RHEL 8. For this I have created a document which I will share with you in the WhatsApp group for the members. There you will have to follow the same steps if you want to upgrade the kernel. So first we will log in as the root or the super user, and after that we will import the RPM file and make sure that your machine is connected to the internet during this process. So there we will execute RPM -- import command, and after that we will mention the same URL. So this will import this file in our machine. After that we can execute the dnf install command to install the RPM file. DNF install and the RPM URL path and press enter. So it can take few seconds. Press Y and press enter to continue, and it will download and install the RPM package in our machine. Now you will find that it has created a repository in the system. If you will execute dnf repo list command, you can see the repository. This is the repository which is responsible for upgrading the kernel. Now we can proceed further. Let's check our existing kernel release. So we can execute uname -r command. The current release is 4.18.0. Now we can enable the repository by running the dnf -enable repo command. So we are going to enable the repository which we have configured by installing the RPM file. Once the repository is enabled, we can upgrade the kernel with the help of this. And this process can take some time, so you need to keep patience here. You can have a look at this. It is installing the kernel in our machine, and after that we will have to reboot the machine and verify whether we have successfully upgraded the kernel or not. So here you can have a look at this. It is currently upgrading our kernel to 5.11.10, and this process can take few minutes, so you will have to keep patience. You can have a look at this. We have successfully installed the kernel version 5.11.10. Now we will reboot our machine and we will verify whether we are able to see the new kernel or not. Let's go to the VMware and check here. Now you can see an additional line here for the new kernel. That is the first one, and the version is 5.11.10. On this I will press enter. So our machine will start with the new kernel, and we will connect through it by using SSH here, and I will verify the same by running the uname -r command. This time it will show us the new kernel release. So it is booting up the system with the new kernel or the upgraded kernel, and let me log in here as the root user, and here I'm going to execute the uname -r command, and you can have a look at this. We have successfully upgraded the kernel to 5.11.10. Now we will be discussing how to set or tune the kernel parameters in Linux. There are many ways you can do it, like setting them in their configuration files or using a system control command like sysctl. Sysctl command is used to configure kernel parameters at runtime. Your current kernel parameter values can be viewed with sysctl-a option. If you will execute sysctl-a, it will show you all the current values of the kernel parameters. So these are the values. The output is very long. In this output, you can see parameters on the left hand side and their values on the right hand side. Parameters are sorted with an alphabetical order, and both columns in output are delimited with = sign, so that you can sort this output easily using this delimiter. there are few parameters you can even view using the proc file system. You can cat their respective files and view the values. Let me show you with an example. Suppose if you want to see the details of the shmMNI, so you can execute cat /proc /sys/kernel /shmMNI, and it will show you the current set value, that is 4096. In this example, the value is set to 4096. Now I will tell you how can you tune this kernel parameter. To change the kernel parameter, you can define it under the configuration file, and the configuration file is /etc/sysctl.conf. This is the file, and it will be applied at the next reboot. If you will mention the value in this file, that will apply at the next reboot. You need to define the parameter like this. So open this file in VI editor, and there go in the insert mode and write here kernel dot shmMNI is equal to, and here you can define the new value, and after that save this file. So it will be automatically applied at the next reboot. Each line represents a new parameter and value pair. Values in this file will be loaded at the next reboot, as I told you earlier. If you want to load this file immediately, then you can do it by running the sysctl-p command. It will load /etc/sysctl.conf file in kernel. You can even define the value with option -w. Let me first load this file so you can have a look at this. This value has been set now, and we can verify the same by running the cat command. So this value has been changed. And if you want to manually define this value, you can also do that. Let me first check the value. This time I will use the sysctl command, sysctl, and then I will mention the kernel parameter name, that is kernel.shmMNI, and press enter. So it will show the current value. In case if I want to change this value, so in the previous method we did it with the help of the configuration file. Now we will do it with the help of sysctl command. After the sysctl command, we can mention option -w, and after that we can define the new value here after mentioning the kernel parameter name. Suppose we want to do it again 4096, so we will write here is equal to 4096 after the name and press enter. So it will change the value, and we can verify the same by running the cat command. So either we can use the configuration file method, or we can do it with the help of the sysctl command. So guys, in this way we can very easily tune the kernel parameters as per the requirement. So guys, that's it from my side for today's session of the kernel management. Hope you will find this session useful for you. If you like it, then do share it with your friends and colleagues, and if you are new on our channel, then please subscribe us and turn on the bell notification. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram. Take care.